But right now, I'm bringing you all an amazing poet, man. He's been doing his thing since before I even knew what life truly was, man. Since I was a youngster, he's been a man since the womb. I'm telling you, a man child. Really. My brother, man, one of my closest friends, Mr. Connor. What's good, man? How you been?
Chilling, man, chilling. You know, living life, trying to be as positive and productive as possible as always.
Okay. Well, look, man, this is the Southern University Baton Rouge version of the Poetic Cipher, man. And just like you're used to, you know, on your show, the Poetic Cipher on Blog Talk, man, we like to evoke thought. We're building our cornerstone through poetic expression. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of obvious, man. It's understood that you're a poet, but can you let me know what brought you to that medium, that art form? How did you get involved with the art form of poetry and spoken word?
Well, the first time I got introduced to poetry was in grade school, around the 4th grade. We were given an assignment to memorize the poem "We Wear the Mask" by Paul Laurence Dunbar. And ever since then, I fell in love with it, and I couldn't help but just research and find everything that I could that had to do with poetry, whether it's been listening, eventually writing poetry myself, and just reading poetry as much as I could.
Definitely. Okay. I've known you for some years now, man, and personally, I've witnessed your growth and your evolution as a poet and as an author. Can you walk us through some of your milestones as a writer, as a poet?
Just well, for those who don't know, my writing style is, for me, a lot of people say they write a certain type of poetry. If I was to put it in a certain genre, I would have to say I like experience poetry. What life brings is what I use for motivation for what I write. So whatever life has to tell me is what I put on the paper, is the ink that I use to scribe, is my experiences through life. So the different trials and tribulations that I endure comes out on paper, the different successes that I come to achieve, I put it out on paper. The humility that I know that I'm supposed to represent when I have those successes, or the perseverance that I know I'm supposed to have when I endure those trials, I've expressed it on paper.
See, and I think that's something that's missing, man, in a lot of what they call it, rap is poetry in motion, man. I think some of the honesty is missing in some of the music and some of the expressions we're getting in the media. Coming from an HBCU, brother, and speaking to an HBCU crowd, how can the spoken word genre, how can this art form, this form of expression be used to kind of breathe life into our community, man? We're in a state where even our college students, man, we're losing them, bro. Like, we're losing them to the street, to the ignorance, to a lot of the madness that's been infiltrating our community for so long. How can the word breathe some life back into us and rejuvenate us?
One thing is seeing the word as being open to everybody who has the ability to speak words, and not just speak physically, but metaphorically, or through whatever means of message that you have. Is like, I know a lot of people in some shape or form have an elitist type of mentality which needs to be done away with. That the message that we have to help anyone better themselves needs to be broadcasted to all, to the masses, not just an enclosed bunch, which is what people do as a whole, not just one race, not just one gender, but people as a whole tend to give information to those who they feel that they want to, but we need to, as a people, as a human race, seek the betterment of all. So whatever information that we have, especially as poets, as we have been given gifts of words to be messengers, to share whatever message that God has given us a gift to give with all that we come into surrounding with these venues that we have, whether it be blog talk, whether it be radio stations, whether it be internet, Facebook, all of these things, we are to use these as a means of information, of networking messages, not to enclose it. But once we get past that and not discriminate, man, we can do far beyond what anyone could imagine.
Man, and build up this cipher and keep it moving. Okay. This show, man, we co-host the show on Blog Talk, okay, and it's entitled The Cipher. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people understand the cipher. You know, you step in, you split your bars, you step out, and leave it where it's at. Don't think twice about it. But in a more introspective and philosophical sense of the word and understanding, what does the cipher mean to you, bro, and how are you keeping it moving? Like, can you help me out with that?
Well, I have pieces where I speak of the cipher, and pieces such as the 9 where I talk of my hometown Chicago and the 79th Street of the south side of Chicago, where I speak of the cipher there, of the cycle of negativity that goes on within that inner city. And the 8, where the new beginning, where I speak of a cipher that is being created of productivity and positivity. And just the cipher is so much more than just a mere exchanging of words. The cipher is just a meaning that shows the representation of the continuous cycle that goes on, the repetition of things that we have seen, that we have been going through. And thus far, we have just noticed the negative. And as we are doing the Poetic Cipher on Blog Talk, and you are extending the Poetic Cipher to Baton Rouge, we are extending the invitation to a cipher of productivity instead of negativity.
We got a lot of these dudes, man, y'all out here freestyling, and y'all talking about killing some and shooting up some and sexually assaulting somebody's daughter. But how many of y'all are talking about building something strong and destroying what's negative, huh? So think about that. Mr. Carter, man, you're 22 now, right, bro? You have, like, way more years in front of you than you do behind you. Okay, where do you see yourself building up to, man? What do you see yourself in the future? What's the aspirations?
Ultimately, just to make it as plain as possible, to make the impossible possible. And when I say that, a lot of people will, like the saying that you're going to hear a lot of more no's than yeses in your path of doing whatever. I plan to, not plan to, but I'm taking strides to make that saying false, as many have before me, but as a whole, just making it false to whatever you, if you have the ability to think of a certain achievement, that the movement that we are doing right now should give you the motivation to know that it is possible. If it is possible for you to even imagine it, that it is possible for the action to be done for it to happen. And that's just through the means of radio stations, books, or whatever I do, whether it be just a mere pamphlet that I hand out to give that motivation of everything is probable, but nothing is impossible.
Mr. Carter, you just mentioned like my next question. You created the greatest segue. Bro, you've written and published one book thus far. You have another book like on the bench, coming in the locker room, ready to come out swinging. I'm just waiting for the lineup, the announcer to come on and bring you out. Let me know, man, what got you into like writing, bro? How many people have written books at such a young age, man? And you're pushing out multiples, huh? Can you walk me through that experience and to actually bring that into fruition?
Anything that usually happens is by coincidence, wasn't on purpose. The first book came about by just reference. I was working at a not-for-profit organization, and my employer saw that I wrote poetry, and he asked me how many poems I had. I told him I had about 25 to 30. And he said, I want to do a book. I never thought about doing a book before. I just thought about copywriting my work. And then, but when he introduced that to me, I ran with it, not fully realizing how the magnitude of doing that. So I published my first book about a year after that introduction, and that's how my words came about. And just going through that process, going through the company I went through, I was really hands-on with it, and I saw that I could do it myself, which means you then in turn helped Alabama A&M Poetry Club publish their anthology, Rhyme for Reasons, and then I saw that I could publish my own book, my second book myself, that you were talking about. My Writing Is My Mouthpiece, that's coming out probably in the next couple of weeks or so.
Any advice, man? You know, Southern University of Baton Rouge is an HBCU, man. It's one of the premier HBCUs known throughout the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for some of the young poets and authors that may be in the position you were in just a number of years ago, man? It's writing in a room, don't know where it's going to lead them, but they just know they have to write.
One thing for sure is use whatever life gives you as motivation. Do not dwell for right. If you are a poet or if you are a writer, do not dwell on your experiences, but write them. It is great therapy. If you have been gifted with the gift of writing, use it to your advantage. It is not just there for you to think of creative ways to put words together, but it is there for you to strive and transcend from what you are now to put down on paper what you can become and what you are becoming. So take heed to it and just take full advantage of that gift.
Peace, King. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Mr. Terrence T. Carter, the author, poet, motivational speaker, man. Thank you for coming through. Hey, serious, man. Thank you for coming through the cipher here at Southern University of Baton Rouge, man. We appreciate you showing the love and the support, man. Hey, why don't you let me know how I can find you, man? Do you have any links, anything you want to share with the people?
Most definitely. You can find me under Terrence T. Carter on Facebook. I am under poet_TTC on Twitter. And you can find me under poettc@gmail.com, and also every Thursday, 10 p.m. Central Time, at the Poetic Cipher on Blog Talk Radio at 646-727-3343.